This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
It's been a busy old month for Forest, transfer window, an unbeaten run which has suddenly come to an end. Welcome to February's Forest Ramble Podcast. So I'm joined by Stephen Topless. Hi, Stephen.
Hello.
And Maradon the Midlands.
Hello.
And I am Rich Ferraro. We're just going to come on to the results from the last month or so in just a little while. But we saw the end of the transfer window just on Friday evening, and it was actually quite a productive transfer window, both in and out, wasn't it, Stephen?
It was. Forest, I think Forest strengthened in those positions that we all wanted them to. Winger, striker, all strikers, as we've now got Tyler Walker as well, returning to the club. We also needed a left-back after the Chema's departure, and the club moved quickly to bring Gaetan Bong in from Brighton. So, all in all, I would say Forest have come out of this transfer window stronger than they entered it.
Okay. Now, you've got your list there of players in and out, and we'll come on to some of those individuals in just a minute. But interestingly, the list of players coming in is much shorter than the list of players going out, either on loan or on a permanent. Maradon the Midlands, are you happy with Forest's business over the transfer window?
Yeah, I think so. I think they've done well. They managed to get rid of some players who haven't really been featuring, so that's always useful.
You're talking about Rafa Mir, yeah?
More Pantilimon, Jakob, Bridcut's gone as well, Luke Steele. So yeah, all those sort of players who weren't playing. It's good to get them off the wage bill. I think I'm comfortable. I didn't see it being critical to bring in huge numbers of players because I just don't think Sabri would use them. He's very, very rigid in that he likes to pick a fairly settled team from now on, and I just don't think it would have been worthwhile bringing in loads and loads of players because they wouldn't have been used. Okay,
players going out then. Pantilimon's gone out on loan, and that will see him to the end of his contract, will it, Stephen?
Yeah, he signed a 2.5-year deal. Mm-hmm. When he signed in...
So he's out of contract in the summer?
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you and goodbye, Costel. Same with Claudio Jakob. He's gone on a free transfer back to Uruguay. I say back. I don't know if he's played there before. He's not from there.
Back to South America, yeah.
Yeah.
It's all the same, isn't it?
Yeah.
South of the equator.
And then Luke Steele, he's going to be out of contract when his loan expires at Millwall. Liam Bridcut, he's going to be out of contract, I think, when his loan expires at Lincoln. It was a little bit of a surprise that Bolton didn't keep him, I thought, because they'd made him the captain in the first half of the season. But I guess, they've got their own, their own issues to contend with. And by all accounts, they're deciding to go for much more of a Brentford-style transfer policy now, so they're bringing in younger players on less money with the intention of being able to move them on for higher money. And let's be honest, for all his qualities, Bridcut doesn't fit into that.
No, and there might be also a little thank you to Lincoln in there for allowing us to have Tyler back. When we send Bridcut out to them, so it might be a little sweetener in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the world of Nottinghamshire sport, I think the whole fans sat up and took notice after the whole Alan Hardy thing led to Ryan Yates and George Grant, their spells at Notts County not being viewed as favourably as they might have been otherwise. And then the player who's still around is Zach Clough. And he's, as we've discussed before, he's played a few under-23s matches, but I'm assuming that's more a case of no one would be willing to take him on for the money he's on and... given his recent record.
Yeah, I think that's probably exactly right. He's even when he has been on loan in the last couple of years, he's not pulled up any trees, so he's not really put himself in the shop window in that sense, and he will be on very good wages at Forest, even if Forest subsidise his wages just to get him into somebody else's team. I just think he's just so out of favour now that it's going to be difficult to convince anybody to take him on.
Okay. With the other players going out, they were all eyebrow raisers to a greater or lesser extent. So the one that was probably got me raising my eyebrows the most was Jack Robinson. But actually, when you look at the mechanics of the deal and you look at Robinson's form for us as well, probably quite a good deal, isn't it? Everyone's happy.
Yeah, I think the fact that we're getting some money in for him, having signed him on a free transfer, that's good business in itself. But the way that his performances haven't quite hit the heights of last season, so on that basis, a lot of fans are not too worried about him leaving. The thought was as well that we had Chema, who could play left back and centre back, so we'd be okay in that area.
Shall we raise our eyebrows again then? So Chema going off. There had been some talk, hadn't there, last time we recorded, of maybe he's a little bit homesick, and that was denied at the time. And Sabri did say this week, it's like, yes, I was a bit surprised, but I didn't want to stand in his way.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised. I hadn't heard the rumours about him being homesick, so it came as a complete surprise to me. But especially as Jack Robinson had gone, he seemed to be sort of an important member of the squad. But yeah, if the player comes to you and says, I want to leave, there's really no point in standing in his way.
And it seems as though Sabri is not the kind of guy who would do that. He knows the importance of having a happy and unified squad. So even though he's at pains to point out that Chema had been, a good professional, in inverted commas, what's the point in keeping him there if he's not happy? And
the club's made a bit of profit on him as well.
Yeah, so what was it? We signed him for €1 million and we've sold him for 2 or something like that.
Yeah, so decent bit of profit for 6 months of having the player. And then Gaetan Bong has come in from Brighton. He's primarily a left back, but he can also operate as a left-sided central defender. So he fills that gap that's been vacated by the likes of Robinson and Chema.
Yeah, and just on this subject of Robinson, I mean, there was an article sort of talking about his history, and I think it's also worth remembering that Jack Robinson, he had 2 years out injured, very nearly retired, and he has had little spells where he's picked up niggly injuries. So in that sense, he gets to move to the Premier League, where he gets to work under probably one of the best man managers in the Premier League. He's probably getting a slight increase in wages. He's probably, he's just like Ben Osborne. He's not going to play that much because Chris Wilder is quite rigid in terms of his team selections, but he's going to be a part of a squad that's really on the up and doing very well this season. And he doesn't have to move house. So in that sense, he's on a winner. Forest have made that money. Chema, he gets to move home, so he's on a winner. Forest have made a profit. And Gaetan Bong coming in, I mean, like you said, it was very quick. And our Brighton supporting friend was Married on the Midlands was telling us the other day, wasn't he, about how that's actually, he's a great player. Even though he's the wrong side of 30, he's super fit. And there's lots of talk about how he's a really good pro, lives his life in the right way, etc., etc.
Yeah. I've always been impressed with him when I've seen him. We couldn't get anything out of Brighton the last few years when we played them, and he was always part of those teams. So, I'm perfectly happy for him to come into Forest.
I mean, the only thing that's a slight potential issue is that he's like Chema, he's more of a defender. So, if let's say Ribeiro gets injured again, Bong won't necessarily be able to offer that same dynamism going forward. But, at the same time, we've got an international footballer who's, got plenty of experience, got a good attitude. And it seems to me like, bearing in mind that we lost 2 left-backs, to get another established professional left-back in is probably good business. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the ins. Shall we do them in order? Okay, so the first player to come in was Adama Diakhaby.
Now, he was a bit of a surprise, probably in that when people saw that name, saw what he'd done at Huddersfield, there was a bit of, really? Is that all we're going after? A Huddersfield player, Huddersfield been in the bottom half of the table. But when you start to look into kind of his style of play and perhaps what Sabri's looking for in players, he does fit the bill. He's a left-sided winger. He's got a good turn of pace, but he's a hard-working player. And he's got a bit of height as well, so he's got quite a lot to his game and a different option to what was in the club already.
He sounds like he could be a little bit of a wild card in a sort of a Sammy Omiobi kind of way, in the sense of, I think sometimes maybe his body might move a little bit quicker than his brain, but presumably that also, as with Sammy Omiobi, will have the payoff that when it works, it will work quite well. And let's not be too hard on Omiobi, because he's had, 5 assists and 2 or 3 goals this season. So Diakhaby, I can see. I think the bit that we've forgotten is that Sabri knows him.
Yeah, they. I think they just missed each other at Rennes. I think Sabri came
they
in
just overlapped.
After it might have just overlapped, but certainly Sabri knows about him, and the recruitment team, with their knowledge of French football, definitely know about him. Like, the guy moved from Monaco to Huddersfield for a couple of £1 million in 2018, so he's got pedigree in order for teams to be paying that sort of money, and even for Monaco to sign him from Rennes.
Now,
in the
do we
first
know
place.
how much we paid for him? Because it's always undisclosed, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we don't know. With it being a loan, for us, it's not really too much of a risk if it doesn't work out.
Is it not one of those loans with options?
I think it is a loan with an option,
Okay,
yes, and
right,
there might be
okay.
a bit of a fee involved, but
Yeah.
we can also at the end of the season say, okay, if it's not worked out, we can send him back and not take up that option without having put a massive outlay out there. You look at Leeds, for example, they've signed Jean-Kevin Augustin.
Yeah.
The rumour is they've paid well over £1 million, £2 billion to loan him in, with a view to a £17 million move in the summer.
That'll be why Forest didn't go for it then.
Yeah, so
or weren't in the market, shall we say?
So I think we do have to cut our cloth accordingly, having been burned in the not too distant past by FFP and transfer embargo. So I think the club is
I would point out
a bit
as well,
savvy,
just as an aside, that Leeds also play the FFP game very well. I think in terms of players that they have let some young players go for good money, and that gives them a bit of spending power in the market. So it's the modern game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But just on Diakabi, I know some of the Forest fans will have perhaps not been too enthused by his signing, and I think Huddersfield fans don't have too much in terms of glowing references to say about the guy. I think he's struggled to make an impact there. So all we can do is let him come in, see what he can do, working with Sabri, who gets a lot out of his play. I think we've seen that already at Forest. He's taken some players to another level in the few months he's been here. And the last winger we signed from Huddersfield didn't turn out too badly, did it?
True. I think the other thing is worth pointing out is that for Huddersfield fans, it's very difficult as a footballer when you're going into a team that's just over the crest of the wave, that they were on the downward slide by the time that Diakabi went to Huddersfield. So it can be quite a difficult situation for a player to be in. And as you said, Sabri is very much an arm around the shoulder kind of manager, isn't he? So maybe he knows that's what Diakabi needs. Time will tell, I suppose. The other striker that we have brought in, Nuno da Costa. Now, we know we've got Portuguese connections, and we know we've got French connections. And although Nuno da Costa is not Portuguese, he's from Cape Verde, which is a Portuguese-speaking country. And he's been playing in France for Strasbourg. So what do we know about him?
He has scored 14 goals in 74 league games for Strasbourg. So he's not prolific, but we're not looking for a prolific striker because you've got Graben as your main option, and Sabri tends to play one up front. So realistically, we weren't going to go and get somebody like Dwight Gale, who then has to sit on the bench when he wants to be a first choice. So Da Costa, he's got a turn of pace, and he's also capable of playing as a winger. So he gives you that option of playing out wide and through the middle. He's 28 years old, so he's probably now in his peak years. So might be a good time that we're picking him up. For the fee's rumoured to be about £2 million, so it's not a huge outlay, and hopefully he's somebody who could come in and offer something different and a bit of versatility as well, being able to play out wide and through the middle.
Yeah, and I mean, you talked about he's not necessarily prolific, not necessarily a full out-and-out striker, although he can play as the kind of the centre forward. But I guess that's also why we've recalled Tyler Walker on the Midlands.
Yeah, for me it's a no-brainer. I'm not quite sure why it took so long to get him back, and why we left it quite so late, because it just seemed to make sense to me, just in terms of finance. It wouldn't have cost us anything really. He knows the club. He's a younger player, so he wouldn't have minded playing second fiddle.
Maybe it's just so he could keep playing for those extra few weeks,
yeah, maybe.
And get a few more goals under his belt. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. And then he also offers a goal threat, and with his pace, he can come on and offers us something different. So, yeah, I'm very happy to have Tyler back.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you look at his record over the last 2 seasons, 26 goals in all competitions for Mansfield, and then this season 16 and 34 for Lincoln. He's making that step up from League Two into League One. He's probably now ready to get another go in the Championship. I think he's earned it.
Well, yeah, and I know it's a well-worn argument, but if we were looking at a player who is 23 years old and has got that goal-scoring record in the lower leagues over the last couple of years, you would be looking at sort of £5 million. And so the fact we own him, well, surely it's a bit of a no, like you say, it's a no-brainer to bring him back to the club.
Yeah, So I think he can play an important part for the rest of the season.
And crucially, he can play as a number 9.
Yeah.
You know, the Tyler Walker we saw a few years ago, he wasn't ready to do that. He was too slim, he was too lightweight, but he's become a man, hasn't he?
Yeah, and I don't think his finishing's ever been in question, really. From the first few glimpses we saw him in a Forest shirt, he scored a few goals. I think it was just strength, experience, and those sort of things were just holding him back at the time, and also playing in a struggling side as well often. So to come into a strong side who know what they're doing with that experience under his belt, I think we can look forward to seeing some positive things from Tyler.
Okay, so those are the first teamers who we've got. Now, you've got a bit of a wild card for us there, Stephen.
Yeah, Julian Lawson signed from AIK in Sweden. He's going to go straight into the under-23 team, but by all accounts, he's a very talented striker who has got a lot of potential. So he's definitely one for the future. He might be somebody we're talking about a bit more in a few years' time. And also on top of that, we've been linked, and I'm not sure at the time of recording if this deal's gone through now, but Marcus McGuane, the former Barcelona midfielder, been on loan at Telstar. I think he was at Arsenal as a youngster as well.
So the word is that official confirmation of the 20-year-old's arrival is expected early next week. Barcelona had to terminate his loan with SC Telstar and recall him before allowing him to make his switch to the City ground on what is understood to be a permanent move, where he will again join up with the under-23s.
So he's still a Barcelona. So he's a Barcelona player now. Yeah. Which for somebody to be, you're being linked with a Barcelona player, the guy must have some talent and some real potential to him. So
hey, we've signed players from Benfica, from Barcelona, On the subject of the under-23s, also worth saying that there was another bit of transfer news in the last month. So with the under-23s coaching, so Andy Reid has come back as a part-time coach for the under-23s, and Jimmy Gilligan has moved on, hasn't he? So interesting, that the guy who's kind of masterminded under-23s development has been allowed to move on. Chris Cohen is going to take more of an active role in terms of, I suppose, becoming the head coach, of the under-23s. And Andy Reid is going to be alongside him. So there is that whole argument of, are we just being nostalgic when we, not us necessarily, but when clubs have former players around. But I think it's fair to say that we've got two guys there who take their coaching very seriously and who really want Forest to do well.
Yeah, and in terms of Andy Reid, he's come through the Forest Academy. He was part of the Paul Hart's era of graduates who not only were great footballers, but were brought up to be good people as well, and that kind of ties into.
And of course, Andy Reid,
for our academy.
Andy Reid, he did have to have several kicks up the arse, didn't he, when he was coming through to the first team? And rumour had it at the time that. Do you remember Keith Foy, the left back? The reason that Keith Foy was let go rather unceremoniously was because it was basically to stop Andy Reid going off the rails, because they both like to night out. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And also Andy Reid, he's not totally inexperienced in terms of coaching. He does a role with the Irish youth teams as well. So
which he's going to continue doing, apparently.
Yeah, so he's got experience of working with young people, and him and Chris Cohen are both sort of steeped in the Forest culture. And one thing you can be sure of is that they both have Forest's best interests at heart. So they're gonna do everything they can to help and do a good job there. So yeah, it's a shrewd move, I think.
Okay, so that's the transfer window more or less done and dusted. In just a moment, we'll be back with an overview of the last month on the pitch. Thanks for listening to the Forest Ramble Podcast. Please subscribe and leave a review on your podcast provider, as this helps other Forest supporters find our content. Now on with the pod.
The Forest Ramble Sketch by Jeremy Davis. Joe Lolly's winning goal at Brentford has got me pondering the sadly underappreciated beauty of the deflected goal. Never will a deflection trouble the goal of the season judges, nor feature in any greatest goal compilation. Even the daddy of goal compilations, the BBC's seminal 101 Great Goals VHS, included not a single deflected strike. The world's greatest players never named deflected goals amongst their favourites, no matter how important. Dennis Bergkamp may reflect with pride on his largely meaningless goal against a poor Newcastle side, but his long-range strike past Peter Schmeichel that drew Arsenal temporarily level in that famous FA Cup semi-final in 1999, never mentioned, despite the fact that he hardly ever got the better of United's Great Dane, as he would go on to prove later in the same match. In that warped reality whereby football fans believe that some goals count for more than others, deflections probably hover just above own goals for aesthetic merit and satisfaction. On an aesthetic scale of 10, maybe a 2 or a 3, with an own goal at 1. But at least the OG gets credited on the score sheet. The deflection is the shameful second cousin of the true goal, forced to hide its real nature behind the name of the scorer, or at least the name of the player that hit the initial shot. This whimsical ranking is totally nonsensical, of course, as it makes no difference to the score sheet or the result. And as everyone except Leeds United fans know, the game really is all about results. As Jimmy Greaves observed, it doesn't matter how the ball crosses the line. And, as he also said, it's a funny old game, which is particularly so where deflections are concerned, although only for supporters of the team that benefits. Philosophically, though, on the kind of plane that the game's great thinkers such as Guardiola, Bielsa and Klopp occupy, the deflection is surely the distillation of the very essence of football, anathema to the doctrine preached by Pep, whereby every variable can be predicted and controlled. The deflection is proof that football really is a game of chance, that despite all the careful tactical planning, the fine-tuning of the system, and the intellectual ponderings of Jurgen, Pep and Sean Dyche, all that meticulous effort to control every variable can be rendered useless just because the ball smacks your centre-back on the arse. Or more likely, on the back of the incredibly expensive precision-engineered boot. The other chaotic aspect of the deflection is that it inhabits a strange nether zone between goal and own goal, never entirely sure of its true identity. Yes, the rules may state that if it's already on target before it gets a touch from the unfortunate deflectee, it is credited to the shooter, whereas a shot that is dribbling wide of the post before a timely nick of a defending player sends it into the net goes down as an OG. But this is to discount countless possible outcomes that might have come to pass if the deflection had not occurred. What if the ball were to strike a divot, or a balloon, or a beach ball, and I'm just plucking these out of the air, on its way past the post and end up in the goal? Would it still be credited to the original ball striker? The simple fact of the matter is the deflection really is the truth that dare not speak its name in football, the ultimate proof of the futility of trying to control the outcome of what is an unpredictable, fickle game. Plus, even the most suave, sophisticated and absurdly, unfairly talented professional footballer looks stupid when one bounces in off his arse. Deflections are football, unpredictable, unforgiving, and they can always do it on a wet Wednesday night in Stoke.
Thank you very much, Jeremy, for your sterling efforts, as always. Let's talk results. It's been a very good month on the whole, hasn't it, Maradon the Midlands?
Yeah, some excellent results, culminating in the victory at Brentford, with one or two sort of kicks in the gut sort of mixed in there just to keep our feet on the ground. It's
yeah. So, I mean, let's just say the last thing we said in last month's big podcast was the Chelsea match is a bit of a free hit, and actually, result-wise, is kind of what we expected. But performance-wise, there's a lot to be pleased about, I thought.
There was, yeah. I was pleasantly surprised when I saw the lineup. I thought we were in for an absolute thrashing. Because
we pretty much said as much on WhatsApp.
we put out a very inexperienced lineup, and the Chelsea team looked very strong. They were only sort of one or two men down from their full team, and especially when the first goal went in, it came so early. I thought, oh dear, hope we can just keep it down to single figures here. But though the players did extremely well to sort of get a battle on, and a bit unlucky with the old VAR decisions in that game, and they were pleasantly surprised by the contribution of the young guys. And
yeah, I would also say that, poor old Yuri Ribeiro, his first match back for 2 months and playing against Callum Hudson-Odoi, And he was really taught a lesson, wasn't he? But in a way, that's a good thing because, we've seen the old Ribeiro back in the league since that match, haven't we?
Yeah, it was good. It was a bit unfortunate that he had to face Hudson-Odoi in that day. But
and also, I think, again, that sort of inexperience the Forest lineup showed because he was left very isolated against Hudson-Odoi a lot in that first half. And we were slightly fortunate that Chelsea decided to put Hudson-Odoi on the other flank in the second half, because he was their main threat and he just didn't threaten from the other side of the pitch. Obviously, the talking point for Forest fans was Alex Myton, wasn't it, Stephen?
Yeah, he was handed a start and performed really well. He was lively. He was a constant threat to the Chelsea defence. You could argue a little bit unlucky to not win a penalty when he was ruled to be offside before being fouled. Basically, his arm and his kneecap were offside. So, I've been unfortunate there. But for an 18-year-old kid, 17, 18-year-old coming in and having not had a great deal of first-team experience, he performed really well under the circumstances.
And considering he's not really an out-and-out striker and he was actually leading the line, he did really well. That's the thing, is that we did go into that match without a recognised forward. So going back to the transfer window, we've signed 3 forwards, or gained 3 forwards, I suppose. So hopefully that's not a situation we'll have to deal with again in the near future. So after that Chelsea match, then I'm just going to skip the Luton Town match in the middle, because we had, in the space of 10 days, 2 matches against Reading where they say that lightning doesn't strike twice, but it really did.
Yeah. So the first game, gone away to Reading, who were one of the 4 teams in the league at that point. 0-0, and then suddenly from a corner, Ben Watson hammers one in the bottom corner, 95th minute. Players are going mad. Fans are going mad. That's got to be it. You've won the game. And then Reading go up the other end. Ball hits Figueiredo, rolls into the corner of the net, and suddenly that's 2 points gone.
Yeah, really, really soft to let that go. And the fact that on the highlights reel they showed it literally from the kickoff, and it was less than 20 seconds, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Literally, Reading just said, "Let's go for it. Get it down the left hand side, put it into the mixer." And yeah, Figueiredo was a little bit unlucky, but that cross should never have come in the first place. Forest shouldn't have switched off in the first place. Nothing good out of that, and it's so frustrating because we didn't deserve the win, but if you score in the last minute of stoppage time, you've really got to get it, haven't you? And then, back at the City Ground.
Yeah, back at the City Ground, Forest sort of had to be patient and eventually took the lead against Reading. And then 3 minutes later, it happened again. It was as soon as we scored, we sort of switched off, stopped doing the things we were doing so well before we scored.
For 2 minutes, we did okay, and then they brought, and of course, it's one of those classic ones. When they brought on Sam Baldock, I was like, isn't he one of those who always seems to score against Forest every time he plays? And I'm sure we say that about every single forward.
And it was another one of those goals where you think, how did that go in? Because he was sort of surrounded by Forest players. He somehow squeezed a shot through. Samba got a hand to it, which, he'd normally say that's saved, but it still went in, so it's just not meant to be.
And actually then, Matty Cash cleared it off the line, managed to hit his own bar, and then the linesman had judged it had gone in. And I have to say, in real time, from my seat near the halfway line, I wasn't entirely sure that it had gone in, but the linesman that's what he's there for.
The goal line technology confirmed it as well. So,
yeah. I mean, I'm not disputing that. It's just one of, like you say, it's just one of those. It's like, how on earth did that end up being a goal?
Yeah.
When there's so many defenders getting in the way, the keeper gets a hand to it, the defender tries to clear it off the line, and everything just went slow motion, didn't it? And the ball just dribbled in. In that sense, what's more frustrating is that's a match we really should have been looking to win, and it was the fabled game in hand. Yeah. So there was a lot of kind of
despondency
and a little bit of disquiet amongst the Forest fans. But fortunately, Leeds and West Brom are doing their best to not get promoted, because, again, last month, you were saying Marathon the Midlands, so it's like, well, we're not going to get automatically promoted. And despite the fact that we threw away 2 leads against Reading.
Yeah,
we're still
we're back in with a shout now. They've gone through an unbelievably bad run of form. It belies belief. Yeah, that they've managed to do that. It's just both of them at the same time. You just wouldn't think it was possible. It's just given everybody else a chance now. Especially when I saw Leeds play against Arsenal in the FA Cup, I thought, wow, we've got no chance.
But then they did a Leeds, or rather a Bielsa, which was they ran totally out of steam in the second half. And there's whisper it, but they might just be doing the same thing.
Well, let's not get too excited, because they've both gone through this terrible run of form, and yet they're still ahead of us. So they did have that big cushion, and so we've had to go on a very good run of form just to get anywhere near them. And
you say that though, but I mean, when you consider that run of form, okay, in January, I know there was a couple of wins over the Christmas period, but in January, that's basically 2 wins and 2 draws. So it's not like we've been winning every match to catch up. Let's talk about the Luton match, because they say there's no such thing as an easy match in the Championship. The nearest thing you've got to an easy match is against Luton. And even then, Forest, the performance level wasn't amazing, but the result was what you'd hope.
Yeah, Luton... Actually, I was quite impressed with Luton. They came out and played and really looked to take the game to Forest. And had they got a bit more quality in their squad, they might have troubled us a bit more. I think.
But that's not been their problem though all season. They've been good going forward. It's just they cannot defend, and the frustrating thing for me against Luton was that Forest just weren't putting any pressure on them. The one time they did in the first half, they scored. It's just the first time they put any sort of intensity into the game.
So from a tactical point of view, I would compare and contrast Reading and Luton actually, because Luton, like, they can play, or they try to play, and they haven't got that quality to kind of get it over the line, but they don't have any resilience. Whereas Reading basically shithoused their way to getting a point from us each time, because they were strong, they were physical. Since Mark Bowen's taken over as manager, he's abandoned anything of like back playing football being the primary objective. The primary objective is to be strong and physical. And at the match at the City Ground, I found it so frustrating that Reading were doing exactly what they wanted, and Forest didn't have the guile to be able to get around it for so much of the match. Luton, on the other hand, like you say, they tried to bring the match to Forest and they paid the price because we scored three times against them. So.
And Joe Lolly in that game was back to his best. I think partly down to Luton not doing their homework on him and really kind of doubling up the way that some teams have against him. But he still had his opportunities and he took them. First one was helped by a bit of a spill from the keeper over the line. Should have kept the shot out. But the second goal was classic Joe Lolly of cutting inside and outside the box, firing one top corner.
I believe the phrase is "Thunder Bastard."
That's the one. Superb goal, and he's back to he's starting to get back to the sort of form that really made him unplayable last season. He scored the winner at Brentford, albeit deflected, but he was in the right place to have a go.
I tell you, that's one of those where the Brentford fans will be going, how the hell did that go? So let's talk about the Brentford match, because it was great from Forest in terms of took an early lead and then withstood the onslaught, but still, they
didn't really create that much though. Brentford, out and out chances. We sort of kept them at arm's length for most of the game.
Yeah, we weren't hanging on as such. It did feel like Forest were stifling them higher up the pitch rather than having to camp in and
which
defend.
Is kind of what we want, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
But so in that sense, a very good performance from Forest. I think possibly aided slightly by the fact Saeed Benrahma, wasn't his father either seriously ill or had just passed away. And he was still playing. Which, whether that was his choice or not, I think Forest benefited from that, and then Hull lost out on that yesterday because Benrahma got his hat trick. But Marathon the Midlands, you wanted to say something, because Brentford seemed to be a bit salty about it, and I didn't see enough. I don't know enough about the match to know if that was justified, but you seem to think it was.
I've noticed it as well. It's sort of annoyed me about us as well. I know every team. Every team now engages in gamesmanship. I realise it's part of the game. It's turned from when we were growing up, sportsmanship has changed to gamesmanship, which I think back sort of 10, 15 years, the only sort of teams who did that were Neil Warnock's teams, and we hated him for it, and we used to criticise...
10 years ago, though, Lee Camp also used to get booked every match for time wasting in the first half.
Maybe it's 20 years ago, I've forgotten how old I am. It was sort of Neil Warnock's teams were famous for it, and we despised him and his teams for it. And now every team, including us, who we thought of ourselves as the good guys, the good side of the force, we're doing the same thing now, sort of standing in front of every free kick, kicking the ball away, wasting time on throw-ins. It infuriated me and the people around me at the Luton game when Samba started time wasting after 70 minutes when we were just gone 2-1 up, and we thought, go attack them, we'll get a bag full of goals against these guys. And he just started taking sort of a minute on every goal kicking. Well, what are you doing?
Brice Samba is the first goalkeeper since Lee Camp, I think, to come very close to getting a suspension because he got 4 bookings for time wasting just before the booking threshold.
Yeah, and then the thing against Brentford is we made 2. Just doesn't make any sense to me. Why would we make 2 substitutions in injury time? They automatically add on 30 seconds for a substitution. Why would we play for longer?
We always know. We know if it was the other way round. We know that we're not going. If we were the team losing at home and they made 2 substitutions, the opposition made 2 substitutions in stoppage time, we'd know that you wouldn't get all the time back. It is that kind of, and that whole thing about players going off on the other side of the pitch doesn't happen anyway most of the time, does it?
It's just little things you do to break up the flow and any kind of momentum that the
disruption,
team's
isn't it? Yeah.
Disruption, yeah. I don't particularly like it either. I'd rather we don't do it. But having seen the amount of teams that come to the City ground and, to use a phrase that you used earlier, shithouse their way to results through time wasting, through gamesmanship, I just think, let's do it. We're in the playoffs now, and every point is crucial.
Well, the thought that came to me was that in our minds, we'd all like to be the Arsene Wenger Arsenal. That's sort of like the ideal team over the last 30 years. Sort of the invincible team, playing beautiful football, thrashing teams every week. I think in reality we were close to the George Graham Arsenal, just winning 1-0 and I think we've got to accept that that's the way it is at the moment, and we'd happily take that if we got us promoted.
Well, there's a bigger issue here, isn't there? Which is that this season it looked as though Leeds and West Brom were running away with it, but actually, when you look at it over the course of however many games we've played so far this season, that it's very much a case that there isn't a standout team. You know, it looked like Leeds and West Brom were. So 30 games in, so 3/4 of the way through, and we're kind of going, you know what? It's not like previous years where there's been a team who's kind of been able to show that they have a much higher level of quality or running away with it points-wise. So in that sense, every team's scrapping.
Yeah.
And it's part of what you do to scrap, isn't it? And you can't be nice and, you know, you think about what it takes to win. You have to have that balance of that sort of niceness, but also that kind of that nasty streak. And actually, you talked about Arsene Wenger's Arsenal. The most successful spell of Arsene Wenger's reign was when he had the Patrick Vieiras in the team who were getting red cards every other week.
I suppose so.
And, you know, when he still had Adams and Bold in defence. And so they weren't just being nice. They were playing great, amazing football, and they were learning new ways of playing. But on the other hand, they could still do the nasty stuff. And I think you may not like it, but it's a reality of modern football. And another reality of modern football is that it's the hope that kills you. And like you say, things come and kick you in the bits. So, Stephen, talk to us about Forest's match at Birmingham City.
Yeah, this was a frustrating defeat, 2-1 in the end. But Forest in the first half, were in control. Goal up, Thiago Silva. Nice finish and cut-in from him for his goal. And then we get a penalty. And it's Lewis Graben, who scored a couple this season.
Before we go on to the penalty, okay? So, from what everyone is saying and from what I've seen, should it have been a red card for a handball on the line?
When I saw the replay of it, it looked like the ball was travelling across the line rather than going in the net.
So I agree, and therefore I understand why it wasn't a red card.
Yeah.
Shouldn't it have been a yellow card because he stuck his hand out in the area to deliberately divert it away from the player who was going to probably put it in on the line, which was Ryan Yates?
Yeah, it wasn't even booked.
Wasn't even booked.
Oh, okay. I
that's
he was.
interesting.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you should definitely have been booked. Yeah.
Okay, so right, beside the point, and let's move on to the penalty. Now, I have maintained, even when he scored penalties in the last few weeks, why on earth is Lewis Graben allowed to take penalties? He's got an abysmal penalty record.
Even when he scores, they're not very good penalties.
Absolutely. And last season, Aitor Karanka said, I don't dictate who takes the penalties. If Lewis wants to take them, then I'm happy for him to take them. I'm pleased he picks the ball up and has a go. Sabri's not said anything publicly because it's 2 penalties that he's missed in the last few weeks. 2 penalties he scored and then he's missed this one. Last season, when Martin O'Neill came in, he basically said, I'm not letting Grabban take one, and he let Lolly take them.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Grabban was out injured for some of that time, which meant that we had to find another penalty taker anyway. Why is Grabban taking the penalty, Stephen?
I think being the main goal scorer in the team, it's
that
probably
ego?
just...
Well,
Might be ego,
well, no, he's
but
also
also-
the most experienced player. He's probably
But Lolly takes a better penalty.
he does, but he's a
Shouldn't-
seniority.
okay, so two things. Number one, shouldn't Sabri be saying, Lewis, you're a great goal scorer, but I don't want you taking the penalties. Lolly's got a better penalty on him.
He might do now.
Okay?
No
Yeah,
one's
I think-
missed one.
And then number two, shouldn't Lolly be going up to Lewis and saying, Lewis, come on, mate, I take a better penalty than you.
There's a hierarchy in a dressing room. I
Yeah.
think it's difficult for somebody like Joe Lolly to go up to Lewis Graham and say, "No, you're not taking it." It's got to come from Lewis. He's got to avoid the awkwardness in the dressing room. Sabri wouldn't wanted to upset him before he missed a penalty by saying, "Lewis, I'm not." It could undermine his confidence. So it's got to come from Lewis. Say, "Yeah, okay, I accept. I'm not very good at penalties. Somebody else take them." But I mean, Joe Lolly would just smack it in. He just blast it, and Lewis just sort of his horrible side foot.
There's no power. He always puts it in the same place.
Yeah.
And
He doesn't look convincing when he takes
He
it.
waits-
very rarely sticks it in the corner.
He waits for the keeper to move and then puts it in the same direction the keeper's gone in, which I don't understand why.
Yeah.
With the benefit of hindsight, against Birmingham, you'd want Joe Lolly taking a penalty. If somebody's going to stick one in, it's
Yeah.
going to be the Villa fan against Birmingham.
And he's got an amazing goal-scoring record against Birmingham anyway.
I said yesterday, even I'd be 100% confident that Bryce Samba would score as well a penalty every time.
I think Bruce Samba would probably end up doing a somersault in his run-up and then kicking it into the rosette, to be
Maybe.
honest.
But the thing
I
with
would say that Samba has probably he must have surely one of the best pass completion rates in the entire division anyway. So, anyway, Stephen.
Yeah, well, the thing with that penalty, the reason we're going to analyse it perhaps a bit more than we normally would is because at that point Forest would have gone 2-0 up and probably would have gone on and won the game, so they'd have been well in control at 2-0. But as it happened, Birmingham came back into it, equalised before half-time, and then 15 minutes from the end got themselves a winner and won 2-1, and it's changed the course of the game.
Two things about that. Firstly, once again, Forest switching off. So they switched off at the back. That goal that Birmingham scored straight after the penalty was entirely preventable. The cross should never have come in. Your mate Lukas Jukovic is a really good header of the ball, so I'm not going to say anything about that, but the cross shouldn't have been in the first place. And then Worrell was close to Hogan but didn't get there ahead of him, so he'd switched off as well. I'm quite annoyed about the way that we conceded that goal, and not just because it came after a penalty.
Yeah, it's a mixture of slight inexperience because we have still got young players in the team, a slight lacking of mental toughness, and then we've got to remember as well, Samba Sow wasn't playing either yesterday. Who's a big old
We'll come back to that in a bit,
block
yeah.
in the centre of the pitch who maybe would have helped a little bit on that. But it's just I think it's just the upset of missing a penalty would have got to them, and they just would have been sort of heads gone, as people say these days.
Yeah,
It does feel like we have a tendency to concede scrappy goals. Certainly when you're looking at the Reading goals that we've conceded, they're not brilliant goals. They're not goals where the opposition, you look and go, okay, fair play, they've earned that. They've done really well to score that goal. And then the Birmingham winner was a similar kind of goal where it's scrappy, balls in the 6-yard box, we've not been able to clear it and they've poked it in.
And there's maybe a little bit of bad luck as well, because all of those goals where sort of Samba sort of got close to them, and maybe earlier on in the season he would have saved them. He would have just palmed it away. Even the 96-minute goal at Reading, he got a touch onto it. He just, I don't know, sometimes you just got to say, maybe he looks out. And
With fatigue.
yeah, you
as
can't
well.
analyse it all completely.
Okay, but the other thing was, I will just have a little divergence back to refereeing again, because as well as all of that, the chance that Lukas Jukovic had very early on in the match. Now, Samba went to move the ball out and Jukovic blocked him. I always thought that was a yellow card if as a
it's
forward,
a kick.
you actually stick a limb out to block it. If you just stand there, it's fine. But he actually did stick his leg out to block Samba before he kind of moved the ball out. So again, it's a bit of a strange one now. I'm not blaming the ref, because Forest's defeat was all their own fault. But
it was a throw yesterday rather than a kick, wasn't it? That he was trying to get out. I think, or was it a kick? I can't remember.
I think he was teeing it up to kick it out.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, I'm just confused. Yeah. All I'm saying is that certain rules that change, and you're never quite sure what.
Sometimes the referee's back's turned, he's running back to the halfway. Yeah. You don't know.
Well, if only they had 2 or 3 other officials around to help them. I don't know.
But it's like you're talking about referees. The Brentford referee, by all accounts, didn't really have a good match, and from our point of view, the penalty that wasn't given,
exactly,
as stonewall as you can find.
It's all right. We'd have missed it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, probably a blessing we didn't get it, but.
If we'd got that penalty, then maybe Grabban would have missed that and wouldn't have took it against Birmingham. I don't know.
Yeah.
If spots, maybes. So the other thing I want to say about the Birmingham match, just to sort of finish this segment, is that Sabri was angry. We've heard him annoyed before. Never heard him angry.
Never seen him or heard him angry like that before.
I like angry Sabri.
Oh, I did. Yeah, it was good.
I like happy Sabri, but I like angry Sabri even more.
He sort of, I think he probably let the dressing room have it for the first time, and maybe that's what they needed. Sometimes you need an arm around the shoulder. Sometimes you need a kick up the arse. So maybe it can help us in the long term. Fingers crossed.
So to quote. I'm just so upset, disappointed, because we gave them the 3 points. Congratulations for Birmingham, but we gave them everything. From the beginning to end, 3 points, easy. We need more character to close the game because it was in our hands. We controlled the game until the penalty. So that is where he's talking about that mental toughness and resilience that we've just talked about. So I'm hoping that, he really gave him a proper rocket, and I'm pretty certain he did from the way he was after the match.
You can't argue with what he says there, can you? It's absolutely spot on.
I love the honesty of his interviews. Having had so many managers, and particularly Karanka's interviews, you always felt that he's one of those managers where he wouldn't ever tell you the full story. Sabri is really kind of
He doesn't speak in any sort of code or trying to get any hidden messages. He just sort of lets you know what he's thinking, and
which makes you think as well that that's exactly the way he is with his players.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting to know, and hopefully the players will respond to that, and we'll talk about that in just a minute.
Hey, we're Renee
and Adrian,
and we are
the Outlandish Historians. We're sisters,
nerds,
and lovers of all things history,
except bell bottoms. Keep that in the past.
Come hang out with us on the Dear World of History podcast, where we'll frolic through time
as we chat and geek out over the good, the bad, and the downright ugly history of the world.
We promise you don't have to be a licensed historian to travel through time with us.
Maritime disasters?
Check.
Historical serial killers?
Check.
Glamorous and petty royals?
Check and check. You can find us almost anywhere you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify.
Follow us on Twitter at Dear Historians and Instagram at Outlandish Historians.
So chug that drink me bottle and come on down the rabbit hole. It's going to be a wild ride.
Okay, so it's part 3, and we said just a second ago that Angry Sabri is quite fun as an interviewee, but he had a fairly good point to make, which is that Forest need to be a bit tougher, a bit more resilient. Now, the things that we know from interviews and reports and so on from journalists who are in the know is that Sabri is one of those managers who he likes to look after his players, have a good relationship with individuals, put an arm around them, let them know what needs doing. The other thing that I was very pleased about is that in the last month, having joined the club very soon before, after pre-season had started, very soon before the season started, tactically, he'd kind of had to make do and mend, but we've seen some Sabri tactics in the last month. Now, there's 2 things that I think really show there. Number one is the fact that we have morphed from the 4-1-4-1 formation into more of a 4-2-3-1. So at the start of the season, you'd have Watson sitting very, very deep, and then a line of 4 with So and Silva or Semedo and Silva or whoever it might be, as part of the line of 4 in front. And now it's become more of a 4-2-3-1. And actually, that's worked very nicely in those matches where we've gained a result. Brentford being a good example, Stephen.
Yeah, it's given a bit more solidity to the team, especially away from home. And you've kind of found that even in the Brentford game, tactically, or certainly with players positionally, he didn't play Silva in the middle. He played Silva out on the left and Lolly through the middle to try and kind of stifle Brentford's creativity, and it worked. It was a really clever move from Sabri. So you're seeing there where he's using his players in slightly different ways to what you would expect him to, but not upsetting the balance of the team and not putting out the team.
Just to counter that slightly, I did find it a bit annoying though against Luton. I felt we were just too defensive and too deep, and I just couldn't understand why Sam Sal wasn't sort of pushed further up the field just to put pressure on the Luton players who were so obviously sort of brittle in confidence and defensive ability. So yeah, it worked in the Brentford game, but some games I think it hurts us as well.
Yeah, okay. And then the other thing to talk about tactically, so you mentioned earlier, Married on the Midlands, and Stephen as well, that with Da Costa and Walker coming into the club, both of whom can play as a striker, that we might see two up front occasionally. Now, we saw that for a little while yesterday, because Tyler came on to join Lewis Grabban up front for the last sort of 15 minutes or so, replacing Thiago Silva. I'm not convinced that Grabban can play as part of a two up front. What do you think, Marder, on the Midlands?
Yeah, maybe. He's traditionally always played as a lone front man. For him to play up front with either of those two, he'll have to be the deeper player and change his game slightly to be more of a holder, flicker on, that sort of second striker role. Just because the other two got a bit more pace.
And we've said before, haven't we, that Grabban's not really a number 9, is he?
No.
So that's what's been very impressive about his way of playing, particularly under Sabri, is that he has done more donkey work that you'd expect a number 9 to do.
I think it would be in an emergency situation where we're chasing a game where you just want your best goal scorers on the pitch and sort of you're flooding the box. I can't see us starting a game with two up front.
I think yesterday, if I'm being generous, I would say that playing Tyler up front alongside Grabban didn't work because they haven't had any chance to work on it yet.
But they still could have scored even when he came on. We had a couple of chances late on where we could easily. I mean, we're very down at the moment because of yesterday's result, but we still could have easily have won that game.
Yeah,
we had the chances.
I think it's worth pointing out that there's only been one match all season where we had no chance of getting anything, and that was the Sheffield Wednesday match, which I'm hoping at the end of the season everyone will go, well, that was weird, wasn't it? But every other match, even the ones we've lost, so the disappointing results like Hull at home and Wigan away, even then, we could have got something out of them if the chances had just fallen in a slightly different way.
I mean, we just have to remember not to get too down when we lose and not to get too high when we win. So after the Brentford game, everybody who I've spoken to about it said, yeah, we got a brilliant chance of automatic promotion. We're gonna do it, and then you just say to people, just calm down. We haven't done it for 20 years. Anything could go. Just takes 2 bad defeats and we're back out of the playoffs again.
I think it's always been the case with football fans that they do get too high when they win and too low when they lose. That's nothing new. Social media obviously amplifies that a bit. But what we've seen is that, going back to what we said in part 2, is that even though Forest's form hadn't been blistering, we just a short unbeaten run, and all of a sudden we look like we might be able to be on the tails of the top teams. So I think that's very much worth remembering in terms of the way in which this league is going, Stephen.
Yes, it is, and Forest have pulled themselves into a really strong position and then strengthened that position in January with the players they've brought in. But it also, the reason people are getting excited is we've gone on a bit of a run, but then we've also got, in the next couple of games, Leeds and West Brom. So it's a real opportunity to overhaul them and even go clear of them, potentially into the top 2.
Let's talk psychology as well. So after the Reading matches, Sabri didn't get too downhearted. He did say, look, there's still, after the home match, he did say, look, there's still 18 matches to go. It's a long season. And presumably he had the Leeds and West Brom matches in the back of his mind at that time. So it is a long old season, but yesterday he still went ballistic.
Well, I think it's just part of another one of those games where you felt it was a missed opportunity, and because we were so in control of the game, and we could have just a 2-0 lead would have just, I think would have won it. Well, let's be honest.
But thinking about that, I mean, like, as if the Reading home match has that game in hand, that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, it was.
But Sabri refused to call him out on it.
But they actually played okay in the Reading game. They played better against Reading than they did against Luton. So I think Sabri came out of the Reading game certainly sort of saying, we've played better, and I can't really criticise my players tonight.
Yeah, you can't
well.
if they played well. You've got to sort of encourage them. I think yesterday they did some silly things, which would have made him angry. So that's the difference, I think.
Okay, let's talk about, just to finish off for today, let's talk about a couple of midfielders. Firstly, we seem to mention him every month, but going back to that transfer window thing, João Carvalho is still a Forest player, and he's been on and off the bench, but not in the first team. Stephen, what do you think about Carvalho's prospects?
I still think he's got something to offer, but at the moment, it doesn't look like there's a way into the team for him in the way that we're set up. You've got, for example, during the Brentford game, instead of playing Silva almost as a number 10, it was almost Lolly in that number 10 position. So it seems that Sabri would have Lolly ahead of Carvalho in the pecking order for that role. And on the left, Silva can play on the left where Carvalho's been playing. Yeah. And Silva's been more effective there.
So I'm assuming that's Sabri making tactical choices on the basis of what his players can offer and who the opponents are. So playing Lolly as a number 10 doesn't seem to make much sense when you've got Silva and Carvalho there. But the fact that Lolly is a player who likes to run directly at players is presumably the reason he did that, whereas Carvalho is more the master of the sneaky pass and so on.
Yeah, and also when he played against Chelsea, you could see the confidence wasn't there. He sort of was playing with his sort of shoulders tightly shrugged. He grew in slightly in confidence as the game went on. You could see him sort of, especially when he got that cross in for Worrell to head it in. Yeah. He looked like his confidence sort of growing then, and he was starting to do a few more tricks and take on the Chelsea fullbacks.
Yeah, he did the little drop of the shoulder, that kind of thing.
And I think he's just completely void of confidence.
And do you think that comes back down to the fact that he got crocked by a non-leaguer in pre-season, which meant that, firstly, it meant that he missed the rest of pre-season. He had to rehabilitate when he wanted to be getting involved with Sabri coming in as the new manager, the tactics, the training and so on. But also, psychologically, I'd imagine for a young lad from Portugal still finding his feet in the Championship, to get crocked by like a big burly lad from Alfreton's probably a bit of a shock to the system.
Yeah, that's part of it. But I think just not being involved for so long, it would have hit his confidence, because he came as sort of the star man who was going to sort of take Forest on to great things, and just to be completely left out of the cold and not to be used, it affects anybody's confidence. We've got to remember he is a young man. So
in time-honoured tradition, apparently Joao's girlfriend he and his girlfriend are very happy in Nottingham, and she, in time-honoured WAG cliched tradition, apparently wants to set up a fashion boutique. So he's not desperate to move on, but I guess he is desperate to play. There was that talk about, the Olympiakos connection, etc., etc. I wonder if, as well, that there is, in the back of the minds of both Sabri Lamouchi and the Forest hierarchy, that if, and it's a big if Forest get promoted, João might actually be better suited to the Premier League in some ways than he is to the Championship.
I think that's a fair comment, yeah, and it's something I've thought about with his value. I think his value would increase as a Premier League player than it will as a Championship player if we were to sell him or to move him on. So I think there would be, he might have the game might be slightly different in the Premier League, and because the Premier League is becoming more technical, and you look at a team like Wolves and the Portuguese technicians they've got in their team, I kind of look at Carvalho and think he could fit in with that, and perhaps might make the step up in the same way that some of those players did for Wolves.
Well, it's a very different type of player, but you look at Ruben Neves, he's more of a sort of a number 8, I suppose, as opposed to number 10. But you look at Ruben Neves, and he's only grown since going into... He had a good season in the Championship, but has got better and better in the Premier League, because he has got that more time and space, I suppose, to be able to do the things he does well and to grow. It's worth also remembering that Joao's, he's 20 years old when he moved here. He's only just 22. And it's a big step. And as we said last month, you look at him compared to Thiago Silva. Now, they're not the same type of player. You can't necessarily fit them in the same team, but they're not the same type of player because Thiago Silva's more of a number 8, I would say, and Carvalho is very much a number 10. But Thiago Silva's also 5-6 years older and has got 5-6 years more experience of dealing with different things, and therefore moving to another country and playing a different style of football is less of a challenge in some ways than it might have been for Joao.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, and it's just I'm not sure. I mean, even if we do get promoted, I'm not sure if he'll get back into the team under Sabri Lamouchi. Maybe the hierarchy are thinking that maybe Sabri's not going to be around forever, and another manager comes in and he'll use Joao Carvalho, or maybe they just couldn't offload him in this window, or get somebody to take him on loan. You just don't know what's happening. I think ideally he would have gone somewhere and played some games and got his confidence up, because I don't think he's going to be involved much at all for the rest of the season, especially with the players we've brought in. But maybe they just couldn't make it happen.
Maybe. The other midfielder, and you'd mentioned him earlier, without wanting to go over old ground again, but Sambasso, when he doesn't play, Forest look much more likely to lose.
Yeah, it was a bit of a worry when we saw he was out injured yesterday. Thankfully, it doesn't look like it's going to be too serious. But he just adds so much to the midfield in terms of strength and ability as well. We're always a weaker team without him. It's
funny, actually, because before in the Reading match, and I was saying, I'm really looking forward to seeing Sambasso play again. He's such a good player. And then, of course, he had probably his weakest match in ages. So there's a bit of a funny one. But and he ended up being withdrawn so that Thiago Silva could drop back to a number 8 role and Carvalho could come on as a number 10, which did actually pay dividends for a little while. But Sambasso, I mean, Stephen, sum up what it is that Sambasso brings to the team that we miss, that we can't replicate when he's not in the team.
He brings a competitive edge and an ability to break up play and get in the opponent's faces in a kind of almost like an acute way, where he's not always picking up bookings. And Ryan Yates does it, but you always feel like Ryan Yates is going to pick up a booking at some point in a game because he's kind of a bit more all action. But Sal just gives you that physical presence and that competitiveness.
But he can play as well.
But he can play as well, and that's the key thing.
Which is probably the difference between him and Yates. Is that Yates is obviously a lot younger and a lot less experienced. And you had pointed out in the past, hadn't you, Married on the Midlands, that Sambassau's played in the Champions League.
Yeah, and you can tell his passing's good. His just awareness of everything around him. He just knows where to go on the pitch and where to fill in spaces. He's just an experienced head in there and just a quality player.
And that thing about head as well. So he's not a headless chicken in the way that it's very easy for a midfielder in that situation to become sometimes. Sure, he didn't have the best match when I saw him play against Reading, but that wasn't because of any lack of ability. It's just that, sometimes people have off days, and tactically as well, it made sense to make the change. So would we agree then that actually it's important that we kind of almost wrap him up in cotton wool for the rest of the season?
Yeah, you want him back for the Leeds and West Brom games, especially. Charlton at home coming up in between that. You might get away with him not playing given the form that Charlton are in, but you certainly want him in there for Leeds and West Brom, the big games where any points gained against those two teams could make a real difference.